The rain hammered the cracked plastic roof of the bus stop like it wanted to punish me. I stood there soaked, shaking, my cheap coat clinging to my skin, no phone, no wallet, nothing. Mark had taken everything when he slammed the car door and screamed, "Then walk, bitch," before peeling away. 8 years of marriage, gone in one explosion of rage. I was crying so hard I barely noticed the old woman sitting on the bench under the dim light. Elegant even in the dark. Silver hair in a perfect low bun, dark glasses, white cane resting against her knee. She turned her blind eyes toward me. "You're dripping on my shoes, dear," she said, voice low, refined, amused. "I'm sorry. My husband." I heard the whole show from 2 blocks away. She tilted her head. "Pretend to be my granddaughter. My driver will be here in 5 minutes. Your husband will regret abandoning you like trash." Interested. I stared at her. She couldn't see me, yet somehow she saw everything. 1 hour later, I was sitting in the back of a black Mercedes, wrapped in a cashmere blanket, sipping hot tea from a thermos, while the old woman, Eleanor Voss, 61 years old, widow of the Voss real estate empire, held my freezing hand like I really was blood. And that's when she whispered, "He's going to suffer, darling. Not with fists. With regret so sharp it will cut his soul for years. But first, you have to become Sophia Voss again. My Sophia who vanished 20 years ago. Can you do that?" My heart stopped. Who the hell had I just gotten into a car with? Welcome to the story that ruined my life and rebuilt it into something terrifyingly beautiful. If you feel your skin crawling already, do 3 things right now. Hit like so this darkness reaches more people, subscribe and turn on the bell because you won't sleep until the end, and comment below the city you're watching from. I read every single one. Let's begin. The Mercedes glided through the storm like a shark. Streetlights flickered across Eleanor's face. Even blind, she looked like she could burn cities down with a glance. I kept waiting for her to laugh and say it was a joke, but she only stroked my knuckles with her gloved thumb. "Mark thinks he left a broken wife at a bus stop," she murmured. "Tomorrow he'll discover he abandoned the only living heir of the Voss fortune. The press will eat him alive." "I'm not your granddaughter," I whispered. "Not yet." She smiled, teeth sharp. "But you will be. I've been searching 20 years for a girl with the exact rage I heard in your voice tonight." Fate delivered. The driver never spoke, never looked back. We turned into a private road guarded by iron gates that opened on their own. A mansion rose out of the darkness, all glass and stone, lights burning like it had been waiting. Inside smelled of old money and lilies. Staff appeared and vanished like ghosts. Eleanor led me to a bedroom the size of my old apartment. On the bed lay clothes, my size, and a photograph on the nightstand. A young woman who could have been my twin at 20, smiling on a yacht. Eleanor stood in the doorway. "Sophia drowned in a boating accident in 2005. The body was never recovered. Tomorrow the world learns she's alive, and married to a monster." I touched the photo. Same eyes. Same mouth. My stomach flipped. "What do you really want from me?" I asked. Her blind eyes fixed on me anyway. "I want my daughter's husband to feel what it's like to lose everything while everyone claps. And I want my granddaughter back even if I have to build her from your bones." A knock. The driver handed Eleanor a phone. She listened, then laughed softly. "Mark just reported you missing to the police. How noble. By morning he'll be the most hated man in the country." She stepped closer, smelling of gardenias and venom. "Sleep, darling. Tomorrow you stop being the victim." I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I crept downstairs and found her library office. The computer was on. One file open, Sophia Voss, DNA results. My name was on it. My blood sample from the teacup. 99.9% match. I heard her cane tapping behind me. "Surprise," Eleanor whispered. "You always were my granddaughter. You were stolen from the hospital hours after birth." I never stopped looking. My knees buckled. She caught me before I hit the floor. "Now," she said, kissing my forehead like a mother, like a devil, "let's make him bleed." But as she held me, I saw the second file on the screen. Plan B, if she refuses. My photo was there. And a red stamp. Eliminate. The next morning I woke up to cameras flashing outside the gates. News vans lined the private road. Someone had leaked everything overnight. I walked into the dining room barefoot, wearing silk pajamas that cost more than my old car. Eleanor sat at the head of the table, calm as death, sipping black coffee. "Good morning, Sophia," she said loudly enough for the maid to hear. My real name died in my throat. By noon I had a new passport, new credit cards, new birth certificate. All legal. All terrifyingly real. Eleanor's lawyers were gods. Mark's face was already all over the news. Husband abandons heiress at bus stop. Leaves her for dead. The video from a street camera showed him shoving me out of the car, screaming. The country wanted his blood. He tried to call the mansion 17 times. Eleanor let it ring, smiling. At lunch she slid a black Amex across the table. "Buy whatever you want. Make it hurt his ego." I drove the Porsche they gave me downtown. Paparazzi followed like wolves. I walked into the boutique where Mark once told me I embarrassed him for wearing cheap trash. I bought $20,000 in lingerie and had it delivered to his office with a note. "Thinking of you. S." His secretary quit an hour later. But every time I laughed, I felt the hook in my gut. The DNA file, Plan B, eliminate. That night Eleanor took me to the East Wing, a part of the house no one entered. She unlocked a nursery frozen in time. Pink walls, stuffed animals, a crib with SV embroidered on the blanket. "She was taken from here," Eleanor said, touching the mobile still spinning slowly in the draft. I heard her crying, but the monitors had been cut. When I ran in, the window was open. Rain just like last night. Her voice cracked for the first time. "I will burn the world to fix this." I wanted to tell her I wasn't a replacement doll, but the words wouldn't come. Because part of me, the part that still stood in the rain with no money, wanted to be reborn in fire too. At midnight my new phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text, "I know you're not her. Meet me or the police get the real story. Parking garage. Now." My blood froze. I looked out the window. A shadow moved near the gates. Someone knew I was a fraud. Or worse, someone knew I wasn't. I slipped out the side door, barefoot again, heart hammering. The shadow stepped into the moonlight. It was Mark. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, eyes wild. "You think you can just steal $20 billion in my life?" he hissed. I backed away. He grabbed my wrist so hard I felt bones grind. "You're coming home." "No. Before the old witch kills us both." That's when I saw the gun in his other hand. And behind him, in the darkness, Eleanor's driver watching, silent, waiting for orders. Mark's fingers were steel around my wrist. Rain started again, thin and cold. "You're hurting me," I said. "Good," he snarled. "You ruined me." The driver didn't move. Just stood there like a statue. I laughed, actually laughed, and Mark flinched. "You still don't get it," I said, voice steady even while my heart tried to punch through my ribs. "I'm not asking for your permission anymore. I'm taking everything." I yanked free and ran toward the house. He chased. The driver stepped out and clotheslined him with one arm. Mark hit the wet gravel hard, guns skidding. Eleanor appeared on the terrace in a black robe, hair loose, looking like a queen of the dead. "Bring him inside," she ordered. They dragged Mark through the marble foyer. He was cursing, spitting, promising lawsuits. Eleanor stopped in front of him, cane tapping once. "Do you know who I am?" she asked softly. "Some crazy rich." The cane cracked across his face. Blood sprayed. "I'm the grandmother of the woman you left to die in the rain. And I've waited 20 years to ruin a man exactly like you." He turned to me. "Darling, would you like to press charges or shall we handle this privately?" Mark's eyes found mine, pleading now. I felt something dark bloom inside my chest. "Privately," I said. They took him to the basement. I didn't go down. I couldn't. Instead I went back to the nursery and cried for the baby who was stolen, and for the woman I used to be who would never have said that word. Hours later Eleanor found me there, sitting in the rocking chair. "He's alive," she said. "For now. He signed everything over to you. House, accounts, company shares. All of it." I stared at her. "You tortured him." "I gave him truth serum and a pen," she corrected. "He was very chatty about the women he cheated with, the money he stole from you, the times he hit you when no one was looking." She sat beside me. "I recorded everything. It's already with 3 journalists and my lawyer. By morning he'll be in jail for attempted murder, fraud, and about 17 other things." I closed my eyes. "What happens when they test my DNA publicly?" I asked. "Because I saw the file. I know I match." "How?" Eleanor was quiet a long time. "Because you are Sophia. she said finally. Your mother, my daughter, had an affair with a married man. He paid a nurse to switch you with a stillborn and sell you to a desperate couple who couldn't have children. That couple raised you as their own. I found the nurse last year. She confessed everything before she died. I couldn't breathe. The DNA was always going to match, she continued. I just moved the timeline up when I saw you in the rain. I recognized your eyes immediately. My daughter's eyes. She touched my face. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you the whole truth yet. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. Instead I whispered, "What's plan B?" Her hand froze. You went through my private files. You were going to kill me if I said no. Silence. Then, yes. She said it without remorse. I lost my real granddaughter once. I wasn't going to lose her again, even if I had to force her to remember who she was. I stood up. You're insane. No, she said. I'm a mother. My phone buzzed in my pocket, the new one. A new text, different unknown number. She's lying. Your real mother is alive. Meet me tomorrow or she dies too. Attached was a photo. A woman in her 40s, gagged, tied to a chair. My face. Older. I didn't tell Eleanor about the text. I couldn't. Because if she was willing to eliminate me for saying no, what would she do to the woman who stole her real granddaughter? I spent the night learning how to be Sophia Voss online. Old interviews of Eleanor, photos of the missing heiress, news articles about the kidnapping. The girl in the pictures looked happy, but nothing like the woman Mark had slowly crushed for 8 years. At 6 a.m., I slipped out again. This time I took the Porsche. The address in the text was an abandoned textile factory 20 miles out. I parked a block away and walked, pepper spray in one hand, the black Amex in the other like a joke talisman. Inside smelled of mold and machine oil. A single bulb swung overhead. The woman from the photo sat tied to a metal chair, head hanging. When she heard my footsteps she looked up, and I saw my own face 20 years from now, bruised and terrified. You came, a voice said behind me. I spun. A man stepped from the shadows. Mid-50s, expensive suit, eyes like winter. Hello, Sophia, he said. Or should I say, Lily? That was the name we gave you, wasn't it? He was the man from Eleanor's old society pages. Victor Lang, her daughter's married lover, the one who arranged the switch. You're supposed to be dead, I said. My voice shook. Reports of my death were useful. He smiled. Eleanor can't touch a ghost. He walked circles around me. She thinks she won. Took you back, destroyed your pathetic husband, rewrote your life. But blood remembers, darling. You're my daughter too. I felt sick. Let her go, I said, nodding at the woman. Your adoptive mother? He laughed. She's leverage. Eleanor will trade everything for her, thinking she's saving the thief who stole you. And when she arrives, I take both of you. A matching set. He pulled a gun. But first, you're going to call Grandma and tell her where we are. I stared at the woman who raised me, the one who sang lullabies, kissed scraped knees, cried at my wedding even while Mark sneered at her cheap dress. Something snapped inside me. No, I said. I threw the pepper spray in his face and ran toward her. He screamed, fired blind. The bullet sparked off metal inches from my head. I reached her, yanked the gag off. Lily, she sobbed. Run. Victor was already recovering, wiping his eyes, raising the gun again. That's when the factory doors exploded inward. Eleanor stood there in the smoke, flanked by 6 armed men in black. Victor froze. Hello, Victor, she said calmly. You look terrible for a dead man. He swung the gun toward her. Her men shot him 3 times in the chest before he could pull the trigger. He dropped, blood pooling. Eleanor walked straight to me, cupped my face. Are you hurt? I couldn't speak. She looked at the woman behind me, my real mother in every way that mattered, and her face hardened. Then, slowly, she pulled a second gun from her cane. No, I whispered. She stole you from me, Eleanor said, voice breaking. She deserves. I stepped between them. She raised me when you couldn't. If you kill her, you lose me forever. Eleanor's hand trembled. For the first time, the untouchable woman looked old. She lowered the gun. Take her away, she told her men, not looking at the body. Make it look like he kidnapped her and shot himself. The usual. They untied the woman, my mother, and led her out. Eleanor and I stood in the silence. I would have killed for you, she said quietly. I know, I answered. That's why I can't stay. I walked past her toward the light. Behind me she whispered, you'll come back. Blood always does. I didn't answer. But 3 days later, when Mark hanged himself in his cell after the tape of his confession went viral, I was the one who inherited everything. And when the news reported Victor Lang's suicide, I was the one who signed the papers that buried him in an unmarked grave. I stood on the terrace of the mansion that was now mine, looking at the city lights. My phone buzzed. A new message from Eleanor's number. Welcome home, granddaughter. Dinner tomorrow. I stared at it a long time. Then I typed back. Only if you promise no more plan B. Her reply was instant. Deal. But I keep plan C. Just in case. I smiled, dark and sharp. Because the truth is I kept one too. 6 months later I was on every magazine cover. The lost heiress who destroyed 2 men and took the throne. I moved through boardrooms like a blade. Fired every man who ever looked at me wrong. Gave the staff who'd been loyal to Eleanor for decades massive raises. I learned power tastes like iron and champagne. Eleanor watched from her wing of the house, proud and wary, like a lioness whose cub grew claws overnight. We had dinner every Sunday. Never talked about the past. Only the future. Until the night she poured wine with shaking hands and said, there's one more thing. I waited. Your mother, the woman who raised you, she didn't just take money to switch the babies. She was in love with Victor. Obsessed. She wanted my daughter's child so Victor would leave his wife. When he wouldn't, she kept you anyway. I felt nothing. I'd cried all those tears already. She's been writing me letters from witness protection, Eleanor continued. Begging to see you. I laughed coldly. Let her rot. Eleanor studied me. You're becoming me, she said, almost proud. No, I said. I'm becoming worse. That night I found a new envelope slid under my door. No stamp. Hand-delivered. Inside, a single ultrasound photo. And a note in handwriting I didn't recognize. Congratulations, Mommy. He's due in March. Mark was dead. My hand went to my stomach on instinct. I hadn't slept with anyone since him. My mind raced back to the basement that night. The truth serum. The hours I couldn't remember. Eleanor's voice in my head. I keep plan C. Just in case. I ran to her room, banged on the door. She opened it in her robe, eyes wide with fake concern. Darling, what? You drugged me, I screamed. You made me. I couldn't finish. She didn't deny it. She stepped aside. On her dresser, the same ultrasound. I needed to be sure the bloodline continued, she said softly. Victor's line ends with him. Ours continues through you. Through my great-grandchild. I backed away. You're a monster. I'm a survivor, she corrected. And now so are you. I turned to run. She called after me, almost gentle. You can hate me, Sophia. But you'll never leave. Because now you're carrying the only thing more powerful than money. I slammed the door. But I didn't leave the house. I locked myself in my room and screamed until my throat bled. 3 days later I sat in the nursery again, rocking slowly, hand on the belly that wasn't showing yet. The door opened. Eleanor stood there with a tiny pair of embroidered booties. See, Sophia Voss. Or something worse. She placed them in my lap. Whatever you decide, she said, I'll be here. I looked up at her blind eyes and saw my future. And for the first time I smiled like her. Kept the baby. Of course I did. Because every time I thought about ending it, I heard Mark's voice the night he left me in the rain. You're nothing without me. And I decided the child would never hear that from anyone. I turned the East Wing into a fortress. Private doctors, bulletproof glass, guards who answered only to me. Eleanor watched from a distance, aloud and only when I said. Power shifted like sand. On the day I felt the first kick, I called my adoptive mother, the one Victor had hidden. She cried when she heard my voice. I sent a plane. She arrived pale, thin, still terrified. We sat in the garden. I'm sorry, she whispered over and over. I know, I said. I let her touch my stomach. When the baby moved under her hand, she sobbed like her heart was breaking all over again. I didn't forgive her, but I let her stay. One night, 8 months pregnant, I woke to alarms. The guards were unconscious. Someone was in the nursery. I grabbed the gun I now slept with and walked barefoot down the hall. Moonlight spilled across the pink room. A figure stood over the crib I'd already prepared. Black clothes, hood. They turned. A woman. She pulled down the hood. My face stared back at me. But older. Harder. The real Sophia Voss, the one who drowned in 2005, stood alive, breathing, eyes burning with 20 years of hate. "Hello, sister," she said. My gun hand shook. "You're dead. Mother Nature is cruel," she smiled. I survived. Washed up on a beach in Mexico. No memory. Until last year when the scars started talking. She stepped closer. Eleanor knew. She paid to keep me hidden. Because she couldn't bear to lose the perfect replacement she'd built. "I mean you." I backed away. "She's coming for the baby," Sophia continued. "Tonight. To finish what she started. One true heir. No spares." Footsteps in the hall. Eleanor appeared, cane tapping, flanked by her driver and 2 others. My twin smiled at her. "Hello, grandmother." Eleanor didn't flinch. "I see you finally crawled out of whatever hole you were hiding in." Sophia laughed. "You're not walking out of this house with my child," I said. Both of them turned to me. Sophia raised her own gun. "Actually," she said, "I'm taking everything." Eleanor raised her cane, the hidden blade flashed. And I stood between 2 monsters who looked like me with my baby kicking like war drums inside. The 3 of us stood in a triangle of moonlight and madness. Eleanor. Sophia. Me. Same blood. Different poisons. Sophia spoke first. "I was 9 months old when they told the world I died. Mother, our real mother, threw me overboard to punish Victor. Eleanor covered it up to protect the family name. I floated for hours until fishermen found me. They sold me to a cartel family. I grew up in cages and blood." Her voice never wavered. "When I remembered who I was, I came for what's mine." Eleanor's lips curled. "You were always dramatic." Sophia smiled. "And you were always a liar." I looked at Eleanor. "You knew she was alive?" She met my eyes, blind but saw too much. "I knew there was a survivor. I paid to keep her quiet. He was damaged. I thought you were the better version." Sophia laughed, sharp as glass. "The spare she could mold." I felt the baby kick hard. "Both of you," I said, voice low, "get out of my house." They looked at me. Sophia first. "You think you can choose?" I raised the gun. "I already did." I shot the ceiling. Plaster rained. Guards poured in. My guards, the ones I'd personally hired after I took control of the fortune. They raised weapons at both women. Eleanor's face finally cracked. "Sophia, darling." "Don't," I said. "My name is whatever I decide it is." I looked at my twin. "You want revenge? Take it from her. Not from my child." Sophia studied me a long moment. Then slowly she lowered her gun. "Fair." He turned to Eleanor. "Grandmother, you're coming with me." Eleanor didn't resist when Sophia took her arm. At the door, Sophia paused. "The baby will have my eyes," she said. "Be careful." They walked into the night. I didn't stop them. 9 days later I gave birth to a boy. Stormy gray eyes, not Mark's, not Victor's. I named him Phoenix. Eleanor's body was found in an alley in Mexico 3 weeks later. Single gunshot. No suspects. Sophia sent flowers. White lilies. No note. I stood on the same terrace where I once watched the city burn for me. Phoenix slept in my arms. I whispered to him, "We don't need ghosts anymore." But sometimes in the mirror I still see 3 faces. And I smile with all of them.